patch right here at Kanui Kapono School, and in this patch we had laid down a lot of wood chips, and smothering the weeds is one way of going about killing weeds. And you can use a number of different materials. There's plastics out there, black plastic, cardboard will work, because the cardboard and the plastic, they do a phenomenal job in blocking out all the sunlight and smothering weeds, even large weeds. Over time it will kill them if you lay enough layers down. So I thought to myself, well, where can I find a natural material like that? And actually the maia stump, the banana stump, is layers and layers of sheaths. And if you look at it in a cross section, it looks a lot like cardboard. It has like pores through it, and it contains a lot of water. So I've actually been using the maia stump for a lot of weed suppressant that I lay down, and I'll mulch on top of that to just give it a different look than the banana sheets, and to keep the banana sheets from blowing away. And that banana stump, the layers, once I unpeel them and lay them down flat, it provides that dark environment. It's full of moisture and nutrients inside there that didn't just kind of leach into the soil. So that's actually my preferred and what I would recommend. Cardboard also does break down. It's biodegradable, whereas plastic, it's not going to break down, and hopefully you can reuse it. The wood chips are organic matter, so they actually serve a number of different purposes, and I really like the wood chip idea. Not only will it smother the weeds if put down in a thick enough quantity, and when I say thick enough, if the surface has existing weeds and you try to put wood chips on top, you're probably going to want to use a bare minimum of 4 to 6 inches, bare minimum. Ideally 8 inches. That's enough of a layer to prevent any plants from growing through, with the exception of maybe some guinea grass. I personally like to excavate or dig out all the large plants before laying down some sort of mulch or wood chips. We're mulching the area that we've planted with our target plants, or the plants that we want, to help inhibit the weed growth. Any sort of organic matter, such as prunings, clippings from plants in your yard, can be used as mulch. And there's a number of different reasons why we want to do that. First of all, weeds are competitors for your target plant, so allowing weeds to grow it's going to allow those weeds to access the nutrients that are in the soil. They can also block out sunlight from the plant, so they can shade a plant that maybe would do better with full sunlight. All plants have a purpose, I would say. So in our last video, we made a fermented plant juice, or concentrated plant fertilizer. Some of these plants, weeds, could be used to make fertilizers for your plants, so they may not be that bad. Mulching does a number of different things. One, it works as a weed inhibitor or a preventive method of keeping your growing area weed free. It also would introduce organic matter into the soil, keeping the microbes and the bugs in the soil happy. It also provides water retention. The organic matter can absorb water and hold it, which keeps the moisture in the ground around your plants. If the ground is left exposed where you can see the soil, the nutrients and the microbial activity in that zone starts to diminish and becomes almost non-existent. The microbial activity requires a dark, moist environment. So mulching around your plants will help promote that dark, moist environment for those microbes to grow. If you just go take a look at bare dirt sitting around in your yard or wherever you may be, there's not much going on there. You don't see a lot of bugs traveling around. It's just too hot, it's too dry, it's too arid. The wind traveling across the surface of the soil will draw moisture out, so it dries out that top layer. So using fire to kill weeds or control weeds is another method. I have a couple different propane systems here. This is something that a lot of families have. It's used oftentimes to start emus. It's a very large propane torch, and it's connected to a 4-gallon tank. It costs about $30, $40 to fill that up. The other torch that I have is a smaller torch. It's got a small little canister on it, and it has a much smaller nozzle on it. But this method of controlling weeds or killing weeds is for specific applications. First of all, it's extremely hazardous. This produces a very hot flame, and starting a fire is a very real concern. This is something that I usually do when it is pouring rain, just to stop any chance of starting a fire. Oftentimes it's just debris, leaves, sticks, and things like that, and the heat from this will dry out a wet stick and ignite it. So caution, extreme caution when using this method. I like to use this method when weeds are very small, lots of seed sprouting. I'm in a gravel area. This is my driveway, and this weed right here is very flat. There's not much to grab onto. If I try to grab it and pull it out, there's not much to grab onto. It's very hard to get out of here, so I choose to use this propane method here. Lots of seeds will sprout inside the gravel, and if I come at the right time, I can toast those weeds and have a weed-free area for an extended amount of time. The flame or blast radius from this larger torch can be quite large, depending on how close the tip is to the ground. So you have to be really careful around plants. And because what is really happening here, you're not trying to burn this weed to a crisp, to ash. You can do that, you definitely can do that, but what you're trying to do with this torch is you're trying to heat the water inside the plant to a boiling point where it starts to rupture the cells. And in some plants, more succulent, like the hono grass, you can see it. It happens on the outside. It chars the skin, and at that point, you can walk away, and that plant will die. The grasses are a little harder, so you have to come back multiple times. So this might work really well around the edge of lo'i, where there's water. You know, there's aquatic plants that want to grow into your lo'i. If you're doing the banks, you got a slope. It's not real convenient to walk on. It's kind of muddy, slipping. You either got to be in the water, hooky in the weeds. So depending on your situation, but this is one option. This is the starter. There's a flint in there. It creates a spark. Not a job for the person who's not conscientious, who's paying attention. With the tank and the hose, very easy to get caught up in what you're doing and be torching way too close to the hose or the tank. It's an option, but it's very dangerous, probably last resort type option, but it works very well on very young plants in areas where there are just thousands, hundreds of baby plants that have sprouted due to seed disbursement, and you don't want them getting bigger. Really hard to get weeds. We'll go ahead and use this little torch around a zucchini plant because I can control the blast radius from this smaller nozzle better, and there's less risk or potential for harming the actual plant. So this is a really small banana tree, but it's the only one I have available at this point. So processing this, the center of the banana stump is interesting. There are some cultures that use the heart of the banana stump to make a beverage that promotes good health. So as I cut into this, this might be one of those resources that you could make a fermented plant juice from. It's something I definitely will experiment with, but the inside of the heart of the banana stump has a different texture than the rest of the plant. We're looking right now for the sheaths to use as a ground cover. And to make this easier, you can actually cut this into quarters. I've got a piece of the heart down here, is why. So this is the heart right here, and it no longer is the same as these layers. And it's really fibrous, and if you look closely, you can see those strands there. So that's the part that's interesting. They're almost like spider web-like. The worm inside the banana sheaths. This is why I love the mite. It's just teeming with life. Whatever's in there, whatever this is made up of, the microbes and earthworms love it. So this is what I ended up with after disassembling the banana trunk, and I will be using these to prevent weeds from growing back in this zucchini bed after I remove the weeds, burn the edges or the fence line. I'll be laying this down to help keep the weeds from coming back.